been doing this series on prayer and talked about different aspects of prayer and meditation and why meditation is an important aspect of what we do, and it's one half of the prayer process. And you probably never heard anything like that growing up in a traditional church, but meditation does what we just did. It opens us up to a more peaceful experience within ourselves. If we do it right, if we truly let go, and that's the trick that a lot of us have to overcome, especially if we have something going on. We want to pray for that something to be fixed and go away so we can meditate, so we can be still. And it's really just the opposite. The way that it works most effectively is we become still first, and then we begin to get ideas on what to do about the problem, what to do about the situation. So it's an infilling of intelligence, of life, of love, of power. Someone has said that God speaks to us through ideas. And when your mind is just totally focused on some problem, and you're even praying about it, it means that your mind is probably full of ideas that you don't necessarily want. And so the meditative process is kind of clearing the landscape, the mental, emotional landscape, so that we can experience inspiration, so that we can allow ourselves to think outside of the box. Meditation lifts us up. I've compared it to if you're out walking on a trail someplace in the woods and you get lost. And I have done that. I actually was not in the woods when we took a church group out, and we all found ourselves walking in circles out in the desert, of all places. You think you know where you are, you think it's easy to find your way around, but we somehow got disoriented. But anyway, we obviously got back. But if you can gain perspective, if you climb up on a rock someplace and you can see your car off in the distance or whatever, then you know how to get back. And if you think of meditation in this way, it's like, okay, stop walking, stop trying to find your way, stop praying real hard, and just take time to be still and allow your awareness to rise. And you do that by, you're doing that if you are experiencing greater peace. I let go, I let go. And I rise higher so I can see further. I can see better. And to see simply means to know everything's okay. That's a spiritual seeing, is knowing everything is okay. It's not seeing pictures necessarily. It's a knowing. And that's really what we want. And that's actually when we know that our prayer is answered, when we get to the point where we're okay. I can let this go. I've talked about the technique it was called the Lord's Sugar Bowl, where you take a sugar bowl or you take some vessel and you write the problem on a piece of paper and you put it in that bowl, and that is a signal that you have let go. So your mind is free to have new ideas, to have a new experience. And this is an important thing when we think about prosperity in conjunction with prayer, because what is prosperity and how does prayer work with prosperity? So we say God is our source, and how does this work? Does God have a great storehouse of goods that are sent out when we ask? And if that's true, what happens when our order is delayed? So we get into all kinds of things like this when we think of God as having all of the answers that we seek, all of the things that we're after. God can somehow make that all happen, as if God is not making things happen now. And it's kind of, our old way of thinking of God as the old man in the sky with all the good things, or the punishment if necessary. The good and bad. If my order's not fulfilled, I must have done something wrong and I need to make amends somehow and get back in good standing with God. So it's kind of a warehouse mentality of God has all these things, all these blessings that will be bestowed upon me if I ask, and if I ask properly, and if I don't get the answer that I'm after. So we can get into all kinds of problems when we're thinking about the answer as being a thing, or a condition, or a healing, something we want to have happen. The first answer that we get, and the first answer we experience at the spiritual level, is peace. An absolute knowing that everything's working out as it should. That's the bottom line of the whole thing. Even if we get the thing in our life, isn't that the state of mind that we're after? I want this thing to happen so I can be at peace. So we're thinking of, God, how will you bring this thing into my life so I can finally have the peace that I want? We're associating the answer with the level of materiality. And it's not that we're denying that as an important part of the fulfillment of our desire. But what we are seeking is to make ourselves a magnet, make ourselves attractive to the idea that lies behind the thing that we're asking for. And what is that idea? It's always peace. We always want to, we want to accomplish, we want to acquire because of the peace that is involved in that. That peace allows us to be happy, allows us to be thrilled with this new thing. But what we find is the new thing, the new wears off the new thing pretty quickly. The peace goes with that wearing off, and there's some other thing that we decide that we must have. And so it becomes kind of an endless thing, and we try to remain in good standing with God, so God goes to the warehouse and sends our next thing that we need. And it's just a way of thinking that we want to kind of interrupt. We want to break that. So Jesus said God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. We're all familiar with this verse, but what it is saying, we may not be so familiar with it in practice. God is spirit, and those who worship him, that would be us. And what is worship? Is it to get down on our knees and bow to some almighty being in the sky? To worship is to acknowledge the source of my power. It is to acknowledge that as the actual source of my being. So that's what worship is. It's not bowing down to some entity up in the sky. It's the acknowledgement that I'm attached to something much greater. So that's why Jesus says this. God is spirit. And when we worship or acknowledge God as a being or beingness, life greater than me, something greater than myself, I'm saying that I am a part of that, but it is greater. And all that I could possibly want comes from that. All the peace that I could possibly desire comes from that knowing that I am so attached to my source that I am actually indestructible. And that whatever problem I have is temporal. It'll pass. But to worship God is to worship God in spirit is to forget the material side of the thing I'm asking for, the prayer, for a moment. Not forget it, because it is part. We're material beings, and we have material desires, we have material needs, and we don't deny those. There are many people that religions have taught that we deprive ourselves of all material goods. And I have concluded in my own thinking that If that's what I've come here to do, then why did I come here? Why not just get rid of the body? That's the problem. That's the thing with all the needs. Why not just get rid of it? Why even show up here? So it makes no sense to come here and then deny all the material side. Nor does it make sense to come here as a spiritual being and let that control my whole life. So there's a place in between all of that. Jesus didn't say, he had a prayer for his disciples. He said, I pray not that you be taken out of this world, but that you be protected from the evil one. And the evil one really is that mindset of ours that says, I have to have that to be whole. I have to have something more to be something. Something has to be added for me to be whole. So why would we come to this place and then spend our whole life denying it? That makes no sense. We'll be out here soon enough. So what we want to do is be here successfully. We want to be on this planet and make it work, have it work for us. If this is like a dare we took, or like a vacation, I think as spiritual beings, you float around heavenly situation all the time, you probably get a little bored. So I think I like to have a little human experience here. So we come here and we have all these things. Our eyes are closed, our spiritual eyes are closed pretty much. We have all these bodily needs that we wouldn't know about, just as a strict, pure spiritual being. So would we make the choice to come here? And maybe some of you don't think you made the choice to come here. I believe that we did make that choice, but I'm not going to try to convince you of that. It just makes sense to me that I'm here because I want to be. So would I come here and then try to evaporate all of this? Try to detach from all of this? That makes no sense to me. But as I said, it makes no sense to come here and let this control all of my thinking, all of my life either. So we're looking for that meeting place. We worship God in spirit and in truth. We acknowledge that our source is spiritual. Our source is undepletable. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And I want that human experience to be as good and as successful and as freeing as I can possibly make it. And I do play a role in that. You notice that when you're upset about something, where is that? Where does that happen? When you're upset about something, when I'm upset about something, where is that going on? Is it something that we could put in another room and look at it and treat it like it's an entity separate from us? Is it going on somewhere outside of us? You say, well, that person just totally upset me. But where is the upset happening? That's what we need to look at. So what is the spiritual thing and how do you apply it to that? First, you acknowledge what is the upset? Where is it happening? And who's in control of it? And the answer is me. It's happening in my mind, in my emotion, thought and feeling. And who's in charge of that? At the moment, my imagination is running wild. And so I guess a wild imagination's in charge of it. Well, who's in charge of my imagination? It's my imagination. So what does this spiritual thing mean? It means that we take the quality of our experience, which is that kind of thing, the thing that's going on in us, and we say, okay, this person is misbehaving and causing all kinds of upset, but are they in charge of my thoughts and my feelings? Are they determining for me what I'm thinking right now and what I'm feeling right now? We're used to saying yes, they are. I can't handle them. I can't deal with them. But the fact is, we make the choice. When we're spinning out of control, that's really a choice. It doesn't feel like it is a choice. It feels like something's happening that's making me do that. So as long as that's true, I will have no choice but to get upset when some upsetting thing happens. And what I'm talking about here is, we all do this, and I'm not talking like I have moved beyond this. I just understand it. I understand what's going on. When I'm angry at somebody, when I'm upset about something, as I have said many times, they could be 1,000 miles away. So where's that happening? And who's in charge of it? It's always me. I don't like taking that responsibility sometimes. I'd rather be upset than happy. Wouldn't you? When you're angry at somebody, wouldn't you rather be angry and upset and miserable just so you can justify it somehow? I don't know why we do that, but we do it. And I don't expect any one of us to just not do it anymore from this day forward. But that's kind of the first thing that we do. So we're looking at meditation and prayer. We're looking at worshiping God in spirit and in truth. So I'm upset. Has my peace been taken away? That's the point I'm trying to make here. If God is spirit, then God is still there. Peace is still present. And that's the good news. To worship God is to make a choice to allow myself to let go of the thing that's upsetting me and experience the truth of God that is here now. That's true worship. It's not sitting in a pew someplace, in a church necessarily. You can be out doing anything and acknowledging that, my world that's going on here, I'm willing to let that go and experience. I'm willing to worship God right here. To worship in spirit, to let go of the upsetting mental, emotional stuff that's going on and partake of that presence. It is quite possible to do. I've done it many times, and you undoubtedly have too. God does not give us things. God gives us ideas and inspiration. We have material needs, so we ask for those. We ask for the fulfillment of those. We want the fulfillment of those, I should say. And how does that fulfillment come? It usually comes in ideas. It comes in inspiration. It comes in a plan that we work. It comes by using our mind in a creative way that creates a path to that thing, or creates an environment that will be attractive to that thing. You don't ask God for something God has not already given. That's the important point. We're not separated from our good, from the source of our good. We're never separated from that. We've never done anything so bad that we can separate ourselves from God. So our source is always present. And whatever it is we need, it will come to us maybe somebody will suggest something. Maybe we'll have an idea, an inspiration. Or maybe we'll just have a knowing. It's okay. Everything's okay. That's so often in my experience how it works. It's like, I don't have to worry about that. It's working out. It's now unfolding. I say I have faith in God. Is that do I have faith in God, in 5 minutes? Do I have faith that things are working out? There's a peace about that. There's something that comes over us, a change in our own experience, where we know everything's okay. And that's a very good place to be. Even when the issue is not resolved yet, if you get to that place where you know you're okay, everything's okay. Your prayer's answered. So how will it unfold? How will that answer unfold? You'll see. But it will. It'll unfold in a way that you might be expecting and you might not. But it doesn't matter. We have a faculty of imagination that enables us to envision specific things and conditions that are appealing to us. So that's why we have that imagination. Animals don't have that to the degree that we do. Animals, I'm sure, have imagination. You know, I told you all we got a little kitten, and she's got quite an imagination. Whatever she's not supposed to be doing, she knows that, and she goes and does that. And it's like she works up ways of making sure that happens, you know. It's just a pretty interesting thing to watch. Animals have imaginations, but like we are aware that we have a pet, we're aware that we have a house, we can be aware of our ancestry, we can invent things, you know, we have this incredible faculty. And we can worry ourselves to death. Don't we do that with our imagination? We're pretty good at that. All of us are. I've heard people say, I'm not creative. I don't have a creative imagination. But they can worry themselves to death. That's a pretty good imagination. You're alive and you're worrying yourself to death. You know, you're visualizing yourself dying because you're worrying so much. That's a pretty good imagination. We all have that. We all have an imagination. And why do we have that? It's like it's part of the prayer process. It's part of the creative process. If God speaks to us through ideas, they often come through the imagination. They always come through the imagination. The imagination, as I have pointed out in my book, The Complete Soul, has two sides. It has the intuitive side, which is the receptive inspiration, the knowing. And then it has the visualizing, the visual side, the movie screen. So we can actually envision a vehicle or something like that. When I bought my last motorcycle, I took a picture of it off of the internet and made a vision board with PowerPoint. And then I forgot about it. But I found it later after I had the motorcycle, and it was a different brand of bike, but it was the same color, and it looked much the same as the one I got. So you always say this or something better. And I was very happy. I just sold that, by the way, because of the vertigo thing. I just don't want to mess around with that. But you can use your imagination to say, okay, this is the thing I would like. So, but don't stop it with that. Say this or something better. There's nothing wrong with visualizing things. If you want a new home, if you want to decorate your home in a different way, I've done a lot of work on our home now, and prior to everything that I have done, I have seen it in my mind, seen what I wanted. And the imagination is an incredible thing. And then you go take the steps that fill that in. It's like chipping away at the marble until you come up with the statue. You just change things, but it's not miraculous. The answer that comes is the energy. It's the ideas. It's the motivation. I'm not always motivated to do work around the house. You can ask Beth about that. But when I get excited about something, then ideas begin to pop and I get the energy. It's kind of amazing how that works. But that's how God responds. That's how I worship God, is I open myself to that infinite source and I'm inspired. And when I get on a project like that, I'll get up at sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning and work on it until night. It's just, I want to do that. But I don't always want to do that. There's times I don't even want to clean off my desk, which would take probably about as long sometimes. But that's how it works. It's not magic. There's nothing magic about it. all the changes I made on our house are not magic. I know every nail, every crack that was filled, every mistake that was made, every board that was sawn wrong. I know all the stuff that goes into it. But there is this creative energy that comes up through us, and we respond to that. That's how our prayer, more than not, is answered. And sometimes, yeah, things drop out of the sky in strange ways, totally unexpected, and that's good too. We're not going to deny any of it. We can tap into the energy of zeal that enables us to do things necessary to bring about the life we envision, which is what I just said. We have the ability to love what we do and create blessings that touch the lives of others. It's like we're this gift that has come here, and we have to agree to be the gift, to be that light, to let our light shine in whatever it is we do. That touches people in ways, it's like if you're going through a checkout counter and you encounter a cashier that's not real happy and just hates their job and all that kind of thing, you pick that up. But you come into another one that is just totally good with everything, and it lifts you up. We don't have to be in key positions to influence the world. It's our world. The only world you'll ever influence is yours, when you think about it. So are you letting this light shine? Are you letting this energy come out? George Eliot said that God could not make Antonio Stradivarius's violins without Antonio. People that understand these, I'm sure, Barbara, you're one of them, that would understand the value of something and the tone and all the stuff. I have a better understanding of guitars than I do violins, but I know a good thing when I hear it. So somebody might come along and say, well, that's a gift of God. But we needed Antonio for that. He was the channel. He was the one that brought these things forth. And all craftspeople, it's not just Antonio Stradivarius. God cannot make the world you know as possible without you to bring it forth. So I guess that kind of puts the ball back in our court in this sense that I don't like my life the way it is, so how do I want it? Okay, I come up with all kinds of things I can check off. I want this, I want that, improve this and that. So the next question is, am I willing to be that? Am I willing to let go of all of these things in my thought and emotion that are keeping that energy from translating as that life through me? And that's the responsibility we have. It's like it is now just as we are expecting, just as we are. My life is as I am, as I see myself. Am I willing to see myself in a different way? Am I willing to open myself to new creative ideas and express different ways, new ways? You're a translator. Think of yourself as the translator of the unseen to the visible. The life you desire is not a thing that is either given or withheld, but a thing you agree to help produce. We make our own world. We sang that. And that's, it's true to a large extent. And I like to actually think about that as what's going on inside of me. The quality of my life. We make that. You're not responsible for everything that happens outside. That's the Chinese proverb. You can't stop the bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest in your hair. So the birds fly over sometimes. There's nothing you can do about that. But it's how you process it, how you react to it. So you're trying to build yourself a good life, and you turn on the news, there's a mass shooting, another mass shooting, and you think, oh, this is horrible, and you go down this dark place. That's a choice. Is that what you want? And it doesn't mean that you're not compassionate, you're not concerned about things. But what is happening to your world at that moment? You're agreeing to take a plunge into something less than what you want to experience. That's our responsibility. We're a translator. So the prayer that prospers sees clearly a desired objective, and that's a thing, or more, a better thing is a state of mind. I want to be at peace. I want this thing so I can experience peace. Okay, so I experience peace. I let myself do that. The prayer that prospers releases the negative doubts and fears that stand in your way. The doubts and fears. Any of you ever have doubts and fears? Who's in charge of those? That's what it comes down to again. The prayer that prospers is willing to release that. The prayer that prospers affirms that which you desire is yours now. Is that possible? You know it's possible because you can go from a confused state of mind, a frantic state of mind, to peace just by making another choice. It may take a little while, but peace isn't gone. It's here. The prayer that prospers stimulates the faith to hold fast and to move forward, to act in ways that further your heartfelt aspirations. That's the energy to move, to take action, to do things. So you can see it's not just a bunch of words. It's a whole mindset. And it's a physical thing. The prayer that prospers. Okay? All right, I'm going to conclude this series next week with a final edition or episode, and we'll see what happens after that. All right, see you next week.